Hey everyone, it's Ron with another devlog. So, it's been 2 months since I started this project. For those of you who don't know, it was 2 months ago that I started making this project for a game jam, the GMTK jam Out of Control, and that lasted for 2 days. So now I've shifted from working on something for 2 days to 2 months, and I thought it'd be cool to contrast and compare. So the first thing I noticed is that the jump was out of my control, which was the whole theme of the jam, was out of control. So you can't jump. But I really don't like that going back to it. In fact, the player just feels all kinds of wrong. He doesn't feel as heavy as he is supposed to. He doesn't feel like he has any weight. He also doesn't feel quite right. It's a bit hard to describe. Essentially, I've gotten used to the player having a fall state, so he puts his hands up in the air and he falls more heavily when the player isn't jumping. And it's just weird to not have it. And again, this gameplay is very frustrating. You're seeing it's actually taking me quite some time to get to the end of just the very first level. And really, you don't want that for an introductory level. So yeah, I'm not sold that this was really a good game jam game. Comparing to the new levels, I think this is actually quite an improvement. It's really easy to do the first level. Obviously, the player now controls the jump. Obviously, it's way easier. There's almost no obstacles except for a few pits. It's very standard platform fare, but the player also feels like he isn't as slidey, but also he has more weight because he feels like he turns more heavily, like he's having to actually turn himself, because his turn speed isn't instantaneous and he doesn't slide when he lands, and that makes all the difference to how he feels. The second level isn't much harder, but what I've decided to do in the current game is, of course, I have a climbing mechanic, and this is the level where that's introduced. So instead of making the level just frustratingly difficult by removing the player's jump control, I've instead decided to add more mechanics. And it's funny how, going back to the original Game Jam version, how much that matters and how much better that is that the player has more agency and more control over what they're doing. You can see there he's just picked up the pickaxe and he can climb, and it just feels much better to play, to feel like you can actually have more impact on the world. So yeah, always ask yourself, is this fun? Can I change it to make it more fun? Now, what was my to-do list again for this week? Oh no. Yeah, that didn't happen. Level 8 was mostly already done, so that is now finished, and level 9 is finished. So I did 2 out of 3. I went over level 8 mostly last week, so I'll get into level 9 this week. Level 9 is just essentially the great big ice tower. It's the one level that's focused mostly on descending. It features mostly around the mechanic of breakable floors. So there are these bits of floor which the player can choose to break, which in turn means that the player gets to decide how and where they traverse through the level at a different pace from pretty much everything else. And it's really quite enjoyable, but because of the different dynamic compared to the other levels, it took a lot longer to make. And this was actually one of the main reasons why I didn't finish everything I thought I was going to finish this week. One of the things I was struggling with last week was figuring out what the theme of level 10 would be. And I think I'm going to go for the Final Valley. This is going to be a mega level, twice the size of anything that's come before it. It's going to have spiky rolling rocks, it's going to have breakable platforms, it's going to focus both on descent and ascent, so both halves of the game are going to be represented. I think that will actually be quite interesting. I've also been thinking about adding a new tile set, like a tundra-based tile set. This is mostly just for the final cutscene, kind of to make the area where the player finally wins feel that bit more special. I don't know, I'm considering it. I think it could be quite nice. I'm also thinking of adding in a little map screen which will have the cliff you see in cutscene 1, the mountain you see in cutscene 2, and the valley you should hopefully see in cutscene 3. The whole map apart from these things is going to be shrouded in mist. And as the player progresses, as they unlock more levels, they're going to see more and more of the map. the mist will slowly recede as the player progresses. I think that will be quite a nice touch, and I think that will give the game a much needed feeling of continuity, because at the moment you're just jumping from level to level and it just doesn't feel quite right. But really all this talk of features is moot, because I still need to finish level 10. So that's hopefully what I'm going to do next week, or at least finish half of it. After all, this is going to be a big level, and so far it's proven quite difficult to finish the bigger levels on time. But yeah, that's the to-do list for next week. And then hopefully all the levels will be in. Maybe. Hopefully. I hope. Anyway, thank you for watching.